Well, welcome everybody to the Bookshop Band Breakfast Book Show. I'm not even sure what it's meant to be called. I think it's something like that, as part of the Wigtown Book Festival. This is our first breakfast show, so we've never done this before. It could go terribly wrong. But we've got all our wonderful guests here this morning. But basically, just if you're watching us on Facebook or YouTube or wherever, or the Bookshop, Wigtown Book Festival's website, this is basically a very informal, slightly, possibly shambolic morning show where we joined by three very wonderful people on our virtual sofa, and we know potentially nothing about them, and we're just going to get to know them. Hope you get to know them as well through this, and find out about what they're up to and what their books are like, and we'll try and respond with a song, maybe ricocheting off some crazy angle of what they say, but firstly, welcome to all our very special, wonderful guests this morning. I'm going to put you on a nicer view. There we go. So we have Will Ashon.
Hello.
I'm not quite sure which way to point. That way. Nice to meet you, Will. Thank you for joining us. Your beautiful, sunny blue sky behind you. Absolutely, really great, lovely. What a beautiful day.
I'm coming straight from the south of France here.
Yeah, absolutely stunning. Amazing. That contrast of greyness and bright blue. It's just, I don't know how you do it. And then also outdoors, we have Stuart Maclean, who is just around the corner from us, and with the very wonderful Galloway Hills behind him there. Thank you for joining us, Stuart. And then we have Olga Wojtas as well on my screen down here. Thank you so much for joining us. Whereabouts are you, Olga?
I'm in the lobby of my flat because there are hideous building works going on outside, and I'm in sunny Edinburgh.
And it looks very sunny as well. Thank you for joining us. Do you know what? Every time I go to Edinburgh, it's always sunny. And my Greek friend who lives there, he gets really annoyed with me saying, "Oh, it's always sunny in Edinburgh." He's like, "No, it's not. It's really wet all the time." Anyway, I'm glad it is sunny. It's always sunny in Edinburgh. This is Beth. I'm Ben, Bookshop Band.
Hello.
We're coming to you from Wigtown itself. We live in Wigtown, just around the corner from the Open Book and the Festival office and the Ghost Marquee in there.
And it's also sunny here.
It's really
actually
nice day,
a lovely morning, if a bit cold, but it's nice. Hence the woolly jumper.
I should turn the noisy fire off. That might help as well.
Oh yeah, do you want me to do that?
Yeah, okay. So we're going to start off with a song that we think might lead into Stuart Maclean. So Stuart, we'll let you be the judge of that. But the song we're going to play is it's called "The Night We Came to Wigtown," and it's I guess it's our audio version of our experience of when we first came to Wigtown in the form of a song, and this was written actually for Sean Bithel's Diary of a Bookseller, which is his diary of being a bookseller. I mean, that's in the title, I guess. And in the diary on June the 8th, he's got a section. It's the day he's put into his book the day we first came to Wigtown, which was when we actually had a gig cancelled in Penrith. And so we were looking round for places with lots of bookshops or somewhere where we might get another gig, and we actually got a gig in Wigtown thanks to the Wigtown Book Festival, actually. And we came and we played a gig here, and we stayed at Sean's bookshop, the Bookshop, and he wrote up a nice little piece in the Diary of a Bookseller about our arrival and gig, except that it was very short, and the night went on till 4 a.m, but Sean fell asleep at about midnight, so he missed a lot of what happened that night. So we wanted to sort of set the record straight, and so we wrote a song. And it's called "The Night We Came to Wigtown." I'm just going to take a sup of my tea.
And it was the 8th of June 2014, which was Ben's birthday. So we had quite celebratory fun night.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna take my headphones off just for a second. Okay. Here we go.
Been knocked.
Okay, here we go. The night we came to Wigtown, Scotland's famous book town, looking for a concert, well how else would we find it? We played in the bookshop and never wanted to stop. Then came down the Tees and we sold a bunch of CDs. The night we came to Wigtown, Scotland's famous book town, everybody's in town, Adrian's up from London. Bottles started opening, birthdays we were toasting, a good excuse as any to celebrate. The night we came to Wigtown, Scotland's famous book town, candles lit for supper, so we headed up the stairs to Sean's kitchen table we were eating. Out comes the banjo and H.A. Manhood, red wine it was flowing, drinking till the morning, singing silly songs and dancing in our long johns. Ooh, ooh, it feels like home. We came to Wigtown, Scotland's famous book town. While Sean was snoring, we started exploring, looking through the book's horny Sean's shelf of porn. He says it's for his punters, but he can't help but wonders, discovering the train sets underneath the carpets, harmonies and cartwheels to beds in the pulpits. Stumbling and giggling, sleeping, Sean is dribbling. Everyone was very wasted. Ooh. Was a very fun day, but not wise for a Sunday. We slept in for 2 days while Sean got up on Monday. He opened up the shop and he wrote in his diary some things he forgot, they just slipped out his memory. Then his book got bought, so now he's an author, but our entry is too short and think that we ought to explain to everyone what really went on while Sean was asleep and snoring. The night we came to Wigtown, Scotland's famous book town. Now we've moved to Wigtown, so now we can expose him. The night we came to Wigtown, Scotland's famous book town. Now we've moved to Wigtown, so now we can expose him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Hope everyone's having a lovely morning. As you've joined us already, you probably know we've got some special guests, and we're going to start off with a little chat to Stuart in his lovely garden in Dumfries and Galloway. Hi, Stuart.
Morning.
So tell us briefly, like, where you are, just so what you can see out the back there.
I'm in a little village called Palmuir, which is the cassette capital of Dumfries and Galloway. That's a little known fact, mostly because I have all the cassettes. And that's Cairns. That's Cairnsmore behind me.
So it probably has the highest percentage of cassettes per person, per capita in any place in the world, just because you've got loads.
In fact, it's the only place with a cassette label in Palmuir.
Okay.
It's my house.
Oh, cool. Why haven't you put out any of our music on cassettes? Or have you? Have you ever put out our music into the air, Stuart?
Into the forest, yep. Twice.
You put our music out into the forest. Could you explain?
Yep, twice. Back in 2012, I was given an FM transmitter to play with for 24 hours. And thinking, what can I do with an FM transmitter for 24 hours? I had the stupid idea of broadcasting music no one had ever heard. in a place where no one would be listening. And the
Sounds
first
like
one,
the
6
normal
people
music
came to
industry.
listen. Why, it started off like that. Then it got busier the next year, then busier the next one. I think the most people we had was over 1,000. That was a couple of years ago. And then it's gone
So
on.
that was people descending onto the forest to
Yeah,
be
they come
part
to
of
a
that.
forest to listen to a radio, which is kind of strange.
Well, if lots of people came, and so these things you would have like a 24-hour of broadcast that would go out, and people would they have to, how would they listen to the music reverberating off the
Well,
trees?
you have to bring a radio, but you can only hear it if you bring your own radio. So, but there was a point where there was lots of people carrying little radios, so the sound would move with them all around, which is quite nice.
The delay from different people's radios must have been amazing.
Well, it's not so much delay; it's the different frequencies. So you get your little tinny little ones, your sort of bigger ones with a bit more bass. That was quite an interesting sound system.
Yeah, I can imagine. And if you have like 500 radios in a field, does the sound get louder and louder? Does it constitute like a big sound, or is it just a sort of
It's
like
not.
almost like a bee hum?
It's more like a hum. Yeah.
That's disappointing. I always thought I could build a big PA with loads and loads of small speakers, but maybe not.
Did you ask the musicians or the people making the sounds for a particular kind of sound, or was it up to them what they sent to you?
But it was always the brief was that nobody had to hear it before, or nobody or very few people have to have heard it before. And whatever they do is completely up to them. It could be something coming out in 6 months, 2 weeks, or things that are just lying in a drawer for months.
And so it was okay that after the event they would release it in a wider form. So it wasn't something that was solely for this thing that would never get heard again. It was that it hadn't been heard before.
Yeah, there has been quite a few things being released, but usually people actually go out the way to make something specifically. Someone actually made something they didn't listen to. That's post-human if he's watching. They recorded it with the volume down, didn't hear it, deleted it. So, thanks, Josh.
That sounds amazing. And did and how do you ensure that no one hears it again after the event's finished?
Well, I delete everything.
With a hammer?
Well, the first one was with a hard drive that was beaten with a mallet, then put on a bonfire, and then buried in my back garden in Wigton, where I live. So, in the back of Botany Street in Wigton, there's a dead hard drive in the garden.
Can you imagine in like 1,000 years' time when someone picks this up and like, oh my god, this looks amazing. I wonder what's on it, and then they're like, oh,
nothing.
It's been smashed with a hammer. Brilliant. Thanks, Stuart. But no, I love you. I honour and love your commitment to with the Matt Hammer and to the thing.
Yeah. So that was a few.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stuart. I was going to say that was a few years ago that you set up that. You said, and so what have you been doing more recently? Well,
there's actually the Dark Outside tomorrow, which is the radio broadcast. Yeah. That was supposed to be part of Aerial Festival in Cumbria, which was cancelled in March. But we just went ahead with it. 3 online ones since then, and this one, the last one of the year, tomorrow. Then Adrian asked me to walk around, record things in Wigtown, which I threw the rule book of field recording out the window for that one. So it's very noisy. There's very, very noisy. Lots of footsteps. Everything you're not supposed to have in a field recording is in it.
And what's the idea behind that?
It's a walk around Wigtown. A walk around the town. Like walk into shops, listen to the co-ops, air conditioning, walk out the co-op.
And how can people access it?
It's
Where
quite
can we find
noisy.
it?
Well, I think Adrian's putting it. It's been put online, I think, tomorrow. I think. There's also a Guess the Noise.
That's exciting.
I've taken
Tune in for
bits
that.
of. I've taken bits of sounds out of things. Adrian asked me. Blame him. So basically, you just got to figure out what this noise is. If you live in Wigtown, you'll know what they are. So.
Well, that's interesting because yeah, it'd be really good to try. We'll let you know how we get on. So that's coming live hopefully tomorrow. And
Yeah.
I mean, in this year when so many people would be here, I walked around the marquee. They've laid out a ghost marquee with lots of little lights in where it would have been. It was quite amazing to go there because that's the place where hundreds and hundreds of people would have been last night, and instead there was just this imprint of a marquee. So there's obviously loads of people that would normally be here, but it's your way of helping them experience the delight of what walking around Wigtown, air conditioning systems and creaky doors is like.
Yeah. Well, just go in your house, put your headphones on, close your eyes, and try not to bump into things. Pretend you're in Wigtown.
Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds really good.
So, Will,
Please
you
don't
could try
swear
that at home in Walthamstow.
Yeah, I'll definitely go with that. I want to know though, is there a prize if you spot the rogue sound? Was you saying there's a sound that shouldn't be in there? A secret sound. Do I get?
No, there's lots of sounds. You just have to figure out what they are.
Okay. And if I get them all, what do I win? Do I win like a luxury holiday in Wigtown? Are you going to have me to your house to stay, or?
Well, you're welcome to visit.
For the sake of it.
You'll win a holiday staying with Stuart, which will immediately be cancelled after you win it.
Yeah.
It's not, but that's the prize.
Great.
With that view.
There's nothing I like more than a cancelled holiday.
Especially a free one. It's a free cancelled holiday. Not everyone's a winner. Everyone's a winner. In fact, I'm going to book a holiday.
I think I'd rather have a speedboat.
Yeah, I'm going to book like 10 holidays tomorrow but not pay for them and then cancel them all. And then I'll have, oh well. I'm
going to buy 10 speedboats and send them to Stuart's address.
I think that sounds great.
Well, we've got the...
Well, Stuart,
Yep.
Stuart, sorry, it was cutting out a bit there. Stuart, how do we also, for the Dark Sky, Dark Outside radio broadcast, is there a way that people can tune into that tomorrow?
Yeah, it'll be on furtherin.live.
Maybe someone who's watching, if you could put a link up on the comments or something, that would be great.
I can do that.
That would be brilliant. Thank you. Oh, Stuart, thanks so much for joining us. So we really look forward to experiencing Wigtown in the comfort of our own home. I don't even need to go outside into Wigtown to experience Wigtown as of tomorrow. So that's wonderful. But actually, that's such a nice thing in this sort of, this year is quite a global year. People are watching forever. Loads of places all around the world. So that's quite, that's the one positive from this, in a sense, is that it can be really inclusive to a much wider audience. So yeah, tune in tomorrow, everybody, to Stuart's walk around Wigtown and the dark outside. Thank you.
Okay.
Well, I think what we're going to do now is we've already played Stuart's song, a little Wigtowny, our interpretation of that. So we're going to move on now to our second author guest of the morning, which is Olga Wojtas. Olga, thank you so much for joining us.
Delighted to be here.
So Olga, tell us about, I believe you've written 2 novels, but could you tell us what they are?
That's quite complicated. They're sort of relatively wacky. I'll need to start going back a bit. I went to James Gillespie's school in Edinburgh, which is the school that Muriel Spark went to, and she wrote The Crime of Miss Jean Brodie about it. And in fact, Miss Brodie was based on her primary school teacher, Miss Christina Kay. And when the book came out, the school was absolutely horrified because they thought that she had brought the school into disrepute and was writing about these terrible ongoings, and it was all dreadful. So, of course, she didn't call it James Gillespie's, she called it the Marcia Blaine School for Girls. So I decided to have this former pupil of the Marcia Blaine School for Girls, who is now a librarian in Morningside Library. The main point of all of this is that I am reclaiming space for women of a certain age. She admits to being 50-something, but we think she's probably just on the edge of getting her bus pass. And she can do everything because she has had the finest education in the world, having been to the Marcia Blaine School. She speaks every language. She knows everything, all subjects. She's just brilliant. Slight problem, she's also a total numpty. And one day, Marcia Blaine herself, who must be at least 200 years old, comes into the library and starts sending her on time-travelling missions to make the world a better place. The only problem is that Miss Blaine never tells her what the mission is, and she generally doesn't grasp what it is, and mayhem ensues.
Brilliant. That sounds amazing.
That sounds amazing. I'm thinking of a book we read called Burton and Swinburne in the Strange Affair of Spring-Heeled Jack is not similar, but it deals with this time traveling person who goes with the best intentions but just causes absolute mayhem along the way, and is there's quite an interesting spin on it. Would you be able to give us a flavour of something? Is there a little
Oh
passage?
gosh, I could.
I was talking to Adrian last night, and he says you do the best voices for your characters.
That is so kind. I was bringing this so that you could see the cover. This is the first one, which is set in Imperial Russia, and this is the latest one, which is set in fin de siècle France. But I'll give you a little bit, having mentioned Miss Blaine, I can give you a little bit of Miss Blaine, but do shut me up. I'll just read a very small bit. At the moment, she's in Imperial Russia, but she's remembering this rainy day in Edinburgh. The library was full of people who had come in to take shelter. I became aware of a woman, not one of the regulars, standing dripping in front of my desk, not bothering to take down the hood of her raincoat. "Good morning," she said, before I had time to ask how I could help her. Her accent was local, her tone authoritative. "Do you have a copy of the Prime of Miss Jean Brodie? I can't find it on the shelves." There was a time when I wasn't sure what hackles were, but the mere mention of that book makes mine rise like cholesterol levels after you've been eating saturated fat. If it's not on the shelves, then it will be out on loan. Yes, I imagine it's very popular. My fingers tightened round the edge of the desk. For those who like that sort of thing, that is the sort of thing they like. Could you order it from another branch? I could, but I wouldn't. I would play no part in disseminating that book. I'm afraid I can't. My computer's playing up. Have you tried switching it off and switching it on again? All the old biddies are technomeisters these days. No, I mean the system's down. It won't get fixed for ages. Council cuts. That gives you an idea of it. Yes.
Great.
Yeah.
I was going to say I was so interested to meet Stuart today because when I first wrote it, as I say, I'm actually using the name the Marcia Blaine School for Girls, and I was terrified because I thought I'm going to get sued. You know, Dame Muriel's estate is going to come after me. But I knew that there was a group, and I thought they'll get sued before me, and Stuart can tell you about them.
Yeah, that's Booty, who's actually hosting the broadcast this time, was in the Marcia Blaine School for Girls.
Wow.
And to my knowledge, has never been sued.
Well,
Morning,
that
Rudy,
is the
if you're
kind
there.
of that is the kind of links we have on the breakfast show here, drawing, connecting authors who really should have been connected before, and we're honoured to be in this position to bring you guys together. So.
I'm kind of interested to what kind of music the Marcia Blaine School for Girls play. I'll have to check it out to find out.
Yeah,
Could you, Stuart? Could you pop a link to the band on a chat somewhere? That would be great.
well, they've long split up, but I'll stick one in.
That would be brilliant. And so, Olga, did you know this was going to be a series when you set out, or did
Absolutely
you get to the end of
not.
the first one and we're like, oh, I got to write another one?
No, I had no idea it was going to be a series. I didn't know it was even going to be published. Since this is just between ourselves, I can tell you this is a crime novel, but I didn't know I had written a crime novel. It was actually the publisher who told me. And I was thinking, well, you want to publish it, I'm not arguing, whatever you say, that's fine. I had basically written a romp. And the reason I had written it was in my day job, I'm a journalist and I'm a complete news junkie. And the news is just so bloody depressing. What I wanted was something that was just sheer escapism. You didn't have to worry about it at all, and you knew it was all going to work out in the end. So I did it as an escape for real life. But then the publisher did point out that there are 6 murders in it, and she said, well, that kind of makes it a crime novel. So I was going, yep, that's fine. But I was just so thrilled to get it published. It's published by the wonderful Contraband, which is part of Saraband Books, and they also publish Graham McCrae Burnett. So this is my one claim to fame, but I'm in the same stable as Graham McCrae Burnett, who is going to be publishing his 4th book with Saraband next year, which is just fantastic news. That was just announced this week. And then it was the extremely kind publisher who suggested that I might try my hand at a 2nd one, which I did. And now the idea for a 3rd is sort of marinating.
Wonderful. It's interesting, this thing of genres, isn't it? Like a Victorian yarn, in my opinion, is one of the greatest genres. But there's no Victorian yarn section in a bookshop, like romp section. There should be a romp section. That's where I would go first. So Olga, it must be one of the few crime novels that actually makes you feel just brilliant and uplifting and laugh out loud. It sounds
well, I
great.
was so hoping. I feel there's something deeply distasteful about all these murders and everybody sitting there laughing at them, but whatever.
Laugh out loud.
Yeah.
And Olga, you talk about books and kind of escaping from the news, and that books being a form of escapism for other people. Is there something that you would recommend as a read, apart from your own books, of course, that would take you away from reality?
Well, you were talking about Victorian yarns. An author who I came to relatively recently is Wilkie Collins, and he writes such brilliant books. They're absolutely gripping. And he's also he's a great feminist. He's very into rights for women. So they're pretty politically correct when you read them. Tragically, there is one, this is pretty much a spoiler alert, but he has got the most fabulous anti-heroine, and at the end she has to die because basically she's this free spirit who's going around doing these terrible things. And if he was writing now, she would definitely be the star of a complete series, and she'd be on television and everything. So that's a bit sad, but otherwise he's pretty sound.
I can probably put down the origin of the Bookshop band to Wilkie Collins, because I had not done a lot of reading for a long time, and then I was like, well, I'm such a slow reader, so I was like, I'm going to read classics because they're going to be good. And I picked up Wilkie Collins' The Moonstone, and I read it over a cold Christmas next to a fire, and I was just like, this is brilliant. This is so such a good read, and it's definitely in my top books of all time. And then when Mr. B's Emporium of Reading Delights in Bath, our then local bookshop, before we moved to Scotland, asked us to sort of do this collaborative arts project and maybe write some songs inspired by books, I just literally put down The Moonstone and was totally enraptured by the thought of responding to some literature in music. So thanks, Wilkie.
That's fabulous.
I think we also have to thank him for, isn't it the case that I think he was friends with Charles Dickens, and it was him who didn't, I think Dickens never plotted any of his books except Great Expectations, which he wrote after he'd read The Moonstone, I think. And Wilkie Collins obviously said to him, mate, it's about time you actually figured out what you were doing before you started, which is why it's the only one that's kind of this length instead of this length. And so there we are. Thanks for that as well, Wilkie.
Yeah, thanks, Wilkie. Well, Olga, should we play you a song?
I would love that.
So Beth,
Okay, yeah, I will introduce you if you haven't already heard of. Have you heard of an author called Ned Bowman?
I'm afraid I haven't.
Oh.
Well, he comes highly recommended. This is what was one of my favourite reads of the particular year that I can't remember what year it was now, but a few years ago, and we actually wrote a song for this it wasn't for the Edinburgh Book Festival. This was through Mr. B's, wasn't it? But we did another book for Ned Bowman for the Edinburgh Book Festival. This is called The Teleportation Accident, and it is. The more you talked about your book, I thought the more relevant this one kind of seemed for you. And it's set in Berlin just before the Second World War, and there's a character called Lersa who is really loves the theatre, loves the kind of the behind the scenes of the theatre. He's really into set design, and there's an incident that happened many years ago called the Teleportation Accident, and he's kind of trying to find out what that was and why it happened, and but it all leads him on a very peculiar journey, and it's a very arty scene in Berlin at that time, and he's just on the fringes of it, but he would like to be more involved with the core people, but he ends up just causing accidents and just making a bit of a fool of himself and pushing him outside the bracket of the cool people a bit more. And then he falls in love, or so he thinks, with a girl called Adele Hitler, who turns out was a former pupil of his who has suddenly become of age, is very beautiful, and he starts following her on a journey. But it kind of, the book goes, there's kind of time travel in it on quite a large scale, but it's quite subtle, I suppose. It's very surreal. He follows this girl, and it takes him to lots of different places, takes him to France and to America, and yeah, he's a very obsessive character, and yeah, just surreal, it's quite confusing at times. and there is quite a lot of mayhem and interesting characters, but anyway, and there's a murder.
There is a murder. Yes.
It sounds perfect.
Yeah. So what have I done with the instrument? There it is.
There we go.
So the song we have is called Accidents and Pretty Girls.
It starts off with me doing a drum solo, which, if you take anything away from today, just remember how great this is. The highlight. I'm just telling you, it's going to be the highlight. That's it.
Very nice. kind of spoiler, maybe?
We don't do spoilers.
There were lots of political and personal agendas. Didn't see it coming in Berlin or a nation or a whole wide war. Blinded by society or ketamine. Found himself a long way from home. Found the one but left alone. Found himself a long way from home. Found the one but left alone. Found himself a long way from home. Found the one but left alone. Found himself a long way from home. Found the one but left alone. Found himself a long way from home. Found the one but left alone. He painted the devil on the wall of his early years, but found there was more than accidents and pretty girls. And what's the one thing that could uproot almost anything? A teleportation machine. A love that had a hold over him. A teleportation machine.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Olga.
Olga. Thank you for joining us and for telling us. And I'm really excited about reading your books. I think one thing that we've also learned with Mr. B's is that you can, I think what I've learned, like I would say, I don't read crime. And you might say the same, people might say the same thing. But actually, when you're introduced to a book and it's good writing and it's, it tells a really good story, it doesn't matter what the genre is, and it doesn't matter whether you like that genre or not. It's about the storytelling in the book. So I'm very excited about reading your stories.
Yeah, and then leading over to Will, one thing. What's your thing on music? Do you have a genre that you're particularly passionate about, or is a song, or is music, and it's either good or bad, doesn't matter what it is. What's your kind of take on it for you?
I ran a hip hop label for 15 years, so I think I have to say that probably rap music and hip hop is my absolute favourite thing. Jazz as well, but yeah, I listen to all kinds of stuff. So and I love the use of the thumb piano there. If I could just say,
thanks very much. Thank you. Did you like the little wobble on it?
Yeah, I did. I the
I
tremor.
discovered that.
What do you do? Are you bending the box to get that effect, or?
I am that strong. Yes.
Yeah. You're actually...
Yeah. No, it's got some little. I only discovered it about a year into it. It's got these little holes on the back that it only works on 2 of the notes. But if you play those notes and do the little wobble, it makes a wobble. It's quite cool.
Very good. I'm impressed.
I just do really quick. We've got loads of comments that we've been completely not looking at, but just to let you know, there's loads of people watching. Lovely comments. Love the idea of a romp section, Olga. I think that was my idea, but I think that's cool. Ingenious drum solo. I'm just reading out all the things about me. Sorry. But anyway, do have a look at the comments later, because there's lots of lovely comments. Hi everybody who's watching. So Will, so your background is very much music, and you're a music journalist, and you set up a label.
Yeah, I used to run a record label called Big Dada. We did Roots Maneuver and people like that, Young Fathers from Edinburgh, and various people. Yeah, so but I stopped doing that a few years ago. I got too old, so I retired.
No.
And now I
What
just get to sit around writing books. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff, which is great. So there we are.
There's quite a heritage of people in the people in the music industry then turning over actually thinking I'd just rather sit at home and write a book now. Like,
Yeah, because it's easier. So you know.
Yeah.
No, to be fair, I think I'd like to think that I was a writer first, and then I ran a record label, and then I went back to writing. But you know, so
yeah.
but each to their own, you know.
Absolutely. So tell us about your first. How did you start what was your first book after that kind of switch?
So I wrote a couple of novels back probably over 10 years ago now, while I was running the record label. But then I stopped running the label. I think 2014 maybe. I stopped doing it around there, and at some point over the next couple of years made a switch to writing non-fiction. So then I wrote a book about Epping Forest, which is just up the road from me in Walthamstow, called Strange Labyrinth, which was when I came to Wigtown actually for the release of that book. So that was probably, I guess it was 3 years ago now. I can't really remember. Anyway, I had a lovely time, beautiful place, amazing. And then 2 years later or a year later, I can't actually remember when, I wrote another book called Chamber Music, which was about the Wu-Tang Clan's first album, New York, very famous New York rap band from the early 90s. So I thought, you know, I've built up this audience who are interested in forests and the outdoors. What will they want next? Probably a book about a New York rap band. You've got to build that core audience, I felt.
Yeah. Did you find that they did transfer over? Did
you draw one into the other? Yeah.
Reader, they didn't.
Completely different.
I think some people have read both. I have met the occasional person who's liked both books, but usually they split there's quite a clear demarcation between the two.
I noticed that when I looked you up beforehand, there was a kind of a similar branding between the two, the similar kind of style of covers. Is that right, or have I got that wrong?
I guess I haven't really thought about it. I guess so. You'd have to thank the good people at Granta who designed the covers, and he came up with that thing that was so subtle that I didn't even notice. But yeah,
but it's great. I would absolutely love to think that someone would pick up one and be drawn into the other subject from it. That would be. Maybe they still will.
Yeah, you never know.
Since then, have you written anything that might link the two, or something that's completely different, or what's?
No, it would be a terrible mistake to start trying to retrospectively build an audience now. Having shattered my audience into my audience of 3 has been shattered into 3 separate people. So no, now I'm heading full steam ahead for somewhere else now. Yeah.
So what's your current direction?
So since the interesting thing for me when I moved to non-fiction was, I wouldn't have any claim to be a greatly original thinker, so to speak. So a lot of what I was doing, I realised, was shifting around quotes from other people. And fitting them together in a way that was hopefully interesting and threw new light on what different people were saying. And it occurred to me as I was writing Strange Labyrinth that actually that wasn't that dissimilar to certain practices within hip hop, the practice of sampling and sequencing samples together. So then that was kind of why I wanted to write a book about hip hop, to use that idea, apply it to hip hop itself. And then since then I've been working on a whole load of projects under the heading of Your Words Never Mine. There's a website actually, yourwordsnevermind.net, which are all, I guess the idea was to take out the mortar of the building, i.e. me blaring on about what this all meant, and just leave the quotes. So I've been working on a number of projects involving direct reported speech, really, talking to people, interviewing them, making transcripts, and then boiling them down into the parts of the book. So I've done probably 2 or 3 short pamphlets over the last year, and at the moment I'm working on a bigger version of that, I guess, the grand collapse into complete insanity.
Well, some of the greatest buildings and bridges and things have been made without mortar, and you'd never diss the skill of the person who didn't use cement in their work. No. So And
Exactly.
there's a great skill, and telling a story with that, and is which, you know, like you say, is that skill, and is the central hub of like a hip hop, how you might make a hip hop record. So that's fascinating actually. And I noticed you, the one I noticed last night was you hitchhiking and taking people's stories, and that sounded really interesting. Like how did sorry everyone, I don't know what that popular man.
Yeah.
How did, what, like, when you say you took that book, which, you know, you had probably a number of different interviews, you know, or conversations that you had, how, and did you break that up so it wasn't just kind of this conversation, and what was your how did you break it up? Was it kind of, did you have in order to tell a story? I'm not asking that very well.
So that one, with the hitchhiking one, it's called Not Far From the Junction. It was published by Open Pen earlier this year. That one basically was a day's hitchhiking, and so the book's made up of transcripts of interviews with everyone who gave me a lift that day. But then they're intercut, so they appear in the characters appear in the order that I met them, but you get a bit from each, and then you go back through the people again. So in a sense, the shape of, which was, as you say, was to create a shape to the story. So it wasn't just this person talking, then the next person talking, then the next person talking. So yeah, so they kind of, and you know, it was funny. It was you know, I mean, I've done a lot of hitchhiking for this bigger project, but this was just one day that I did back last May, and it was just one of those days where the themes between what people were talking to me about seemed to interrelate themselves. So sometimes it just happens. I mean, in a way, it was. I went probably best part of 2 years ago now. I went to see a screening of Faces Places, the film that Agnes Varda did with the French graffiti artist JR. And Agnes Varda was there. She came along, and afterwards she said this thing that she was asked to explain her process, and she said, "Chance is my best assistant," which apparently, I then looked it up. She says it in every interview she's ever done for the last years. But at the time, I thought, oh! And so that's kind of one of the things I like about hitchhiking, is that rather than me carefully curating my interviewees, the interviewees choose me.
That's really great. And
they're the people who stop. And actually what you find is the people who stop tend to be generous, kind, quite open people, which is why they bother to stop for a complete stranger standing on the side of the road going,
yeah.
So
would you ask them questions, or would you prompt them with anything, or is it just generally what they?
I would chat. I mean, they're all basically chats, but in the book I remove myself from them, so I'm not there. It's just them talking. But actually, in reality, obviously, we sat and chatted sometimes for 10 minutes, sometimes for an hour, depending on how far they took me. So yeah, that was that really. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds wonderful. I look forward to finding that. And just very quickly before Adrian comes on and tells us to wrap up, what your latest project, I hear, has some element of Dumfries and Galloway in? Is that right?
Yeah. So this is a good link there. So yeah, I'm working on this bigger book at the moment, and one of the various. I mean, obviously, COVID came along just as I'd really got down to it. And my original plan had been to travel all around the country and meet people and talk to them, and that's not really worked. So one of the things so I've been looking for various slightly random ways to find interviewees, and one of them was that I drew a line on a map from where I live now through where I grew up, which is just south of Leicester, and followed that through. And it ended up going through the southwestern corner of Mull, which is where I went on holiday every year when I was a kid, but also goes through Dumfries and Galloway. So then I drew another line at right angles to that, and more other lines. And I'm basically trying to find interviews with people who are on those lines, in effect, anywhere on those lines. And yeah, there's one that runs straight through Dumfries and Galloway, not far from Wigtown. So I got in touch with Adrian, who I know a little bit, and said, you know, anyone who might live on this line? And he's promised me that when he's finally got this festival out of the way, that he'll help me find them. But if there's anybody out there listening now who happens to, I can't show you where the line is. I keep doing this, which isn't very helpful. But
That's your dancing.
Fine. Maybe I don't know where I could post it, but if you're on a line that you don't know that you're on, then do get in touch through my website. There we go.
Thank you.
There you have it, people. Please do get in touch
Yeah.
about the line.
So
About the line, you don't know where it is. Yeah.
So do get in touch, everybody. Everyone, look at Will and just pile him with requests to be in.
Yeah, beyond that, actually, if there's anybody out there listening who does fancy doing an interview for this book, then, as I said, the website has my website, which I should probably put in the chat, but I don't know how to do that. But anyway, it does have a link to an email address, so do just email me. I'm always interested in speaking to people who are interested in speaking to me.
Lovely. Well, we are going to get thrown off shortly by Adrian, so we are going to thank you to all our authors who've joined us this morning. And Will, we're gonna play you out with a song.
Oh, exciting! Is it the Wu-Tang man?
It's got a groove.
We just didn't have much time to prepare that one, so we'll do that another day.
Yeah.
But instead, we thought it's kind of, I think the link was kind of freedom of speech and that kind of thing, wasn't it? It was a bit that we. And also that this may be our most kind of, I don't know, it's not, I wouldn't say it's groove, it's got a groove, and we thought, oh, Will might like that, okay. So even though we don't know you, so, but actually the book that we're going to do is Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which I hadn't read before we did this song, but I had wanted to read. We went round Wigtown trying to look for books that had been banned at some point in their time, and this was one of them. And we were doing it for an event at the V&A in London with kind of talking about literature that had been banned. And there was a festival celebrating 50 years of a certain act that came in that meant that some literature and plays could be viewed or read by people. So
let's just
do it because we haven't got much time.
Yeah. Poor Adrian literally pulls the plug.
Well, if he does.
But everybody have a wonderful rest day at the festival.
Yeah, and thank you so much to our authors for joining us. It's been wonderful having a chat with you.
Thank you for having me.
So what's this song called, Beth?
It's called Dirty Word.
Dirty Word. This is the one we've chosen for you, Will. Dirty Word.
Yeah.
The dirty word is actually mother in this case. Okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, don't say it. The word is dirt. She became that dirt.
you, everybody.
Guys.
Thanks so
Thank
much for joining us. Have
Thanks
a
so
wonderful
much.
rest of the day. Great rest of the festival. And see you, everyone, tomorrow. Bye. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.